March for Our Lives is a youth movement born in the U.S. after the tragic shooting that took place on the 14th of February of this year when a gunman opened fire at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, taking the lives of 17 people and injuring 14 others. 13 out of the 17 deceased were teenagers, ranging from ages 14 to 18. This tragedy had such an impact on this small community that students and former students from this high school decided to take action and do something about the growing number of gun-related deaths in their country. According to the Washington Post, 1,102 people have been killed in mass shootings since 1966.
The following days after this event, the students were focused on organizing rallies and giving speeches in favor of better gun control in the hope that this strategy would be the last of its kind. The speech that definitely stood out of the most and served to initiate this movement was that of 18-year-old Emma Gonzalez, where she said the most infamous phrase, "We call BS."
Power are lying to us, and us kids seem to be the only ones who notice and are prepared to call BS. Companies trying to make caricatures of the teenagers nowadays, saying that all we are is self-involved and trend-obsessed, and they hush us into submissions when our message doesn't reach the ears of the nation. We are prepared to call BS. Politicians who sit in their gilded House and Senate seats funded by the NRA telling us nothing could have ever been done to prevent this. We call BS.
Her speech became so famous that it ultimately caught the attention of former President Obama, who praised Gonzalez for her bravery and eloquence.
It was the leadership of teenagers like Gonzalez and her classmate David Hogg who became famous for publicly calling out Republican Senator Ted Cruz for taking money from the National Rifle Association (NRA) to fund his political campaign. That set the tone for what kind of movement this could become. The teens began their campaign by inviting Cruz and several other prominent figures to a panel held in Florida where the audience had the chance to ask and interact with the guests. Once again, Gonzalez, with an intelligence when asking questions, stood out enough to prove to everyone how serious and concerned they were, and called for attention from all over the world and how prepared these teens were.
After the lack of action from the pertinent authorities after this rally, the teens called for actions on the street and summoned the now infamous March for Our Lives, which was held on March 24 of this year. The idea was for protesters to march through the streets of Washington and congregate along Pennsylvania Avenue to urge the authorities for universal background checks on uncle says for the federal age of gun ownership and possession to be raised to 21 and to impose a ban on the sale of high-capacity magazines and bomb stock in the U.S. The turnout for this march was estimated between 1.2 and 2 million people across the United States, making it one of the largest protests in American history. Donations for the MSD Never Again Fund were also set to raise money for the affected families.
The speakers, all of whom were high schoolers or younger, included Marjory Stoneman Douglas, students Cameron Kasky, David Hogg, Sarah Chadwick, and Emma Gonzalez. Yolanda Rene King, granddaughter of Martin Luther King Jr., also made an appearance along with Christopher Underwood, an 11-year-old from New York, Alex King and D'Angelo McDade from Chicago, and Matthew Soto, brother of Sandy Hook victim Victoria Soto.
Once again, Emma Gonzalez's speech stood out the most as she began a passionate recollection of the day that forever changed her life. Gonzalez, after speaking and naming the 17 victims, stood silent for over 4 minutes, after which a cell phone alarm went off, and she announced that it was the 6-minute and 20-second point in her speech, equal to the length of the Parkland shooting. Gonzalez ended her speech saying,
Since the time that I came out here, it has been 6 minutes and 20 seconds. The shooter has ceased shooting and will soon abandon his rifle, blend in with the students as they escape, and walk free for an hour before arrest. Fight for your lives before it's someone else's job.
Last phrase still resonates around the world, and it has pushed politicians to introduce new legislation for better gun control as part of their campaign promises. The MSD students are currently urging people to take this into consideration when voting in the upcoming primaries in November.
March for Our Lives is the perfect testament as to why youth movements are so important. These are kids, young kids, who are taking matters into their own hands so that they can fix problems that are directly affecting them and that are costing their lives. These are kids that are standing up to adults and fighting for what they believe in, and I think that this is something that we should all take part in and support.
These type of movements are really important in our society since always, because it is a way to raise our voices, to make something else, to make the difference and stop problems that affect our society, in this case the shooting in school. As students, parents and teachers, it's our duty and right to do something in order to avoid the continuity of this type of problems that cause hundreds of lives of students.
Nowadays, shooting at school have increased a lot on the USA. And I think that with the March for Our Lives, it will help to politicians to make aware of the situation and realize that it's not a good idea that everyone have a gun. So with this march, it could change their mind about this situation.
How young people, like the people from March of Our Lives, can create such a significant change in a whole country. How they stand against their authorities to live more peacefully or to eradicate what is wrong with this world. How they encourage young people to stand up for what they believe in.